I've been waking up at 5 a.m. for the last 30 days, and I wanted to share my experience with you. In this video, I'll talk to you about my motivations to get up at 5 a.m., how it has improved my life, what has helped me stay consistent, and what are the other things that I didn't consider when waking up at 5 a.m. For the past maybe 3 to 5 years or so, I've been wanting to wake up much earlier at around 5 a.m. or so, but I never really found a routine that could stick. Recently, me and my partner decided to stay at a monastery for 7 days to close out 2022 and celebrate the new year at the monastery in 2023. It was a really culture shock type of experience where the monastery life starts at 3:30 a.m. and it finishes at around 8:30 p.m. There's not really much to do in the monastery, and so when you find yourself in bed in your little hut, you are already exhausted from all the things that you've done during the day, such as helping around the monastery, doing the weeds, cleaning up the toilets, and doing the dishes and preparing food and things like that. So there's not really much you can do there anyway, and so you just find yourself naturally going to sleep at around 8:30. You don't have the stimulation from the moving lights and flashing images from your phone and YouTube and Netflix and that type of stuff, so your brain is much less stimulated. So we found that waking up at 3:30 was hard at the beginning for the first 1 or 2 days, but after the third day to the seventh day, we found that waking up at 3:30 was actually quite nice. And so we decided after the retreat that we would wake up at 5 a.m., which was more of a reasonable time instead of 3:30. And so since then, we've been waking up at 5 a.m. for the last 30 days for 80% of the time, and it's been quite good. So that's how it all started. So how has waking up at 5 a.m. improved my life? Well, firstly, it starts the day off with purpose and intention. No one wakes up at 5 a.m. by accident. And so when you set the intention that, okay, next morning I'm going to get up at 5 a.m., then you start your day right with that clarity of purpose and in positive intent that starts your day off right. I found that when I start off my day off right by doing the positive things such as getting your body moving and getting your blood moving, having some time with no distractions because no one's awake yet to just write down the things that you want to do during the day. Those two things alone have enabled me to be much more effective with my day and much more purposeful with my time. The second thing that has benefited me by waking up at 5 a.m. is the time that I waste at night has been replaced with sleep. And so the time that I do spend on the things that I want to do, they're focused with high energy and high quality energy at that. So we all know when we wake up, we're much more awake and high energy than where we are when we go to sleep. And what actually happens throughout the day is our energy levels and our willpower decrease over time. And so the tasks that we know that we should be doing, or our number one priority tasks, are pushed further and further back. But when you wake up at 5 a.m., you're doing those tasks with a high energy and high quality of energy. And so the quality of the output of your work is much higher as well. And I found that by having not only the time to plan out my day and set the intentions and focuses, the quality of my output has been much higher because of the clarity of mind that I have. And not only do I have less distractions around during the period when I work, but my focus is much higher. And so the quality of the output of the work, but also the amount of work that I do per minute as well is much higher as well. The third thing that I've seen my life improve by waking up at 5 a.m. is being more proactive. When I woke up at 7:30 or 8 a.m. previously, by that time, a lot of people had already woken up, and you were kind of at the mercy of the people who got up a little bit earlier because they were already on it. And so when I woke up at 5 a.m., I started to really understand what that meant, because when you get up at 5, you already start your day while other people are still sleeping. And what that means is the early bird gets the worm. We've all heard that. But what does that really mean? When you have that extra time to plan your day, you have the ability to be organized and be proactive by anticipating what are the things that I need to do myself first before you get kind of dragged into the agendas of other people. Because at the end of the day, it's either you are going to pursue what you want to do and make progress to the things that you deem are important, or you will become a tool or a resource in the grand scheme of someone else's day. In this part of the video, I'll talk about some of the things that help me be more consistent with waking up at 5 a.m. The first is setting up an accountability group. After we left the retreat, there was 3 people that wanted to continue getting up at 5 a.m. And so we formed a WhatsApp group. We didn't have a grand plan or a structure that people needed to do this. If you didn't wake up at 5 a.m., then you got punished to do that. We didn't have any of that. So what ended up happening is we formed the group, and each day we would just say good morning. Whenever you woke up during the day, you said good morning, I said hello, and we just did it like that. Everyone had different strategies. For me, regardless of what time I slept, I wanted to wake up at 5 a.m. So there were some times where I would be out around 9:30 or 10 o'clock. And so I'll get only about 7 hours sleep. But for me, what worked was getting up at 5 a.m. regardless of when I went to sleep. Other people had the same goal of waking up at 5, but they valued their sleep a little bit more. And so if you slept at 10 a.m., for example, they wanted to sleep 7.5 hours. So they would get, 5:30. And so everyone had different ways of achieving the 5 a.m. goal. But either way, there was this sense of doing it for more than just yourself. And when I woke up, seeing the other people's chats around just saying hello and good morning really motivated me to continue waking up at 5 a.m. even when it got hard. So I think the accountability group has definitely been one of the most influential or things that have helped me be consistent. The second one is being proactive and communicating with the people in my life that I'll be waking up at 5 a.m. I'm lucky enough to have people in my life that are supportive of the things that I want to do. And when I came back from my retreat, I was already waking up at 5 a.m. more naturally than I would normally have. But what ended up happening was I found myself becoming very, very drowsy towards 8 p.m., maybe 8:30. Normal activities that I would do before waking up at 5 a.m., I just couldn't do anymore. So things like after dinner that would finish around 8:30, I would already be very tired and I couldn't do anything else. And so by communicating to not only my family and friends that waking up at 5 a.m. is something that I really wanted to do, it kind of prevented the conversations around, oh, why do you need to go to sleep so early? Or we still wanted to do this and this and this. Why are you being a party pooper? By being proactive and communicating that waking up at 5 a.m. is very important to me, which means I need to sleep at 9:30. That helped with eliminating those potential distractions and putting unnecessary effort or energy into overcoming those obstacles. So again, proactively communicating waking up at 5 a.m. is important to me. The third thing that helped me stay consistent is planning what the first thing I'm going to do during the day is. So there were some days where I would wake up at 5 a.m. because my alarm goes off, but I would just find myself staying under the covers and being warm and comfortable because I didn't really have a plan for the time that I had when I woke up. And so naturally, I took the path of least resistance and just stayed in bed and going back to sleep, waking up at 6:30. What I found that worked really well was, what's the first thing I'm going to do that morning? That could either be just getting out of bed and just standing up for a little bit, drinking some water, stretching, meditating. Well, what I found that really worked was have a plan of what that first thing is going to be. And that seemed to be working very well because I think the common trend that I found with activities is get out of bed as quickly as you can. So for me, the 3 things that worked well were 1, drinking water at the kitchen, just a cup. 2, getting out of my room and meditating. Or 3, getting out of my bed and stretching or doing some sort of physical activity. So those 3 things all had the same thing in common, which was getting out of bed as soon as possible. But once I started setting those intentions of the first thing I'm going to do when I get up is X, I found that getting out of bed and waking up at 5 a.m. much easier. It wasn't comfortable and it wasn't pleasant, but it was much easier to get out of bed. And lastly is a little bit counterintuitive to a lot of this hustle culture that you hear online, but not being too hard on myself. I think one of the keys to success, not only in the accountability group, but for myself personally, is just not being too hard on myself. There were definitely days where I woke up at 6:30, and there were other days where I slept really, really late. And so again, I slept in a little bit. That was fine because I wasn't too hard on myself, and the other people in that accountability group were also not too hard on themselves either. We were all there for the same purpose. It's not really about how fast you achieve the goal, but more that you are making progress towards that goal and having a clear trajectory towards that. Because if you could really context waking up at 5 a.m., we were waking up at I was waking up at 7:30, 8 o'clock already. And so even if I wake up at 6:30, that was already an hour or so improvement already. And so waking up at 5 a.m. as a goal itself became easier and easier to hit the more I did it. But it wasn't really how many times I could stay on the horse or get up at 5 a.m. at the beginning, but rather how many times I could fall off the horse and get back on. If there were a couple of days where I woke up at 6:30, which there were, how many days would it take me to get back to the 5 a.m. mark? And the more I did it, the more comfortable or the quicker it was for me to go back to a 5 a.m. start, because I knew that, okay, was it because I stayed out too late and I didn't get good sleep? Or what were the triggers that caused me to not get the quality or the duration of the sleep that I needed? So again, just not being too hard on myself, but also having that same group that shares that mindset made it a very, I wouldn't say easy, but much easier experience to stay consistent. How has my life been impacted by waking up at 5 a.m.? I thought about this one for a little bit, and it hasn't impacted my life just yet, but my body starts to shut down, like I mentioned before, at around 8 p.m. or 8:30. It hasn't directly impacted me just yet because, to be honest, I'm not that much of a social person that goes out to parties and stuff anyway. But there's only a couple of scenarios where, for example, for Chinese New Year, we wanted to play Mahjong, and we had dinner pretty late, around 8:30 already. But because it was a family occasion, I wanted to spend more time with them, and so I pushed until 8:30 to 10:30, and that was extremely difficult for me because at that time my brain and body had already adapted to the 9 p.m. 9:30 p.m. sleep schedule, and so it was like I was a zombie in my own body, and everything was much slower. And basically anything that you were feeling when you're normally tired. But other than that, waking up at 5 a.m. hasn't really impacted my life in a negative way at all. I'm not saying it won't in the future if there were opportunities that came up later at night, but as far as the first 30 days have been, it hasn't been too bad. And yeah, ultimately it's a net positive for my life, and it's been much better because of it. Anyway, that's it. Summarize, waking up at 5 a.m. for the last 30 days has been a net positive for my life. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. It hasn't been necessarily easy to get to this point, but I definitely think I'm going to continue to do it because the pros definitely outweigh the cons at this point. If you like this content, please like and subscribe for more content like this. I find YouTube pretty fun at the moment, and I'll definitely be posting more videos to share my experience on the things that are making my life better. See ya.